Hello, today we're going to talk about sex and gender. You've probably heard people use those terms interchangeably, so you might be saying, hey, don't sex and gender mean the same thing? Well, they don't, so we're going to talk a little bit first about what the difference is between these two terms. So the word sex refers to the makeup of your body, and there's actually two components to what your sex is. The first one of these is going to be what we call your chromosomal sex. Your chromosomal sex refers to the combination of sex chromosomes that you inherited from your parents when you were conceived. Most people either get two X chromosomes, which makes them chromosomally female, or they have one X chromosome and one Y chromosome, and that makes them chromosomally male. But there are many other possible combinations that people have. The other part of your sex is your anatomic sex. So those chromosomes that you inherited from your parents contain instructions for creating your body parts when you're developing in utero. The term anatomic sex refers to what body parts you have. So if you are anatomically male, you might have a penis, scrotum, testes, vas deferens. Or if you're anatomically female, you would have typically a vagina, a uterus, ovaries, etc. So then the term gender refers not to what your body is made of. It refers to instead your personal sense of whether you are male or female. So for most people, your gender and your sex are going to be in agreement with each other, but that's not always the case. So you might be wondering, where does our sex come from? Most of us are going to inherit one sex chromosome from each of our parents at the time of conception. As you can see in this picture, the X chromosome is very large and it has instructions for actually many things other than just providing femaleness. The Y chromosome, in contrast, is very small. Everybody needs at least one X chromosome in order to survive because of all those extra things that are on the X chromosome. So for example, our ability to see color and our ability of our blood to clot are both due to genes that are found on the X chromosome, but that have nothing to do with being male or female. In contrast, the Y chromosome, only males have it. And so the Y chromosome really only contains instructions for developing male structures. So the X chromosome is going to contain a gene called the DSS gene. 2 copies of this gene are needed for typical female development. The Y chromosome contains a gene called the SRY gene. If you have the SRY gene, you only need 1 copy in order to develop male structures. So the picture here shows what we all start out with. So at around 6 weeks after we are conceived, we all start out with what are called undifferentiated gonads. So these gonads are going to turn into either ovaries or testes, depending on what instructions you get from your chromosomes. So if you have a Y chromosome that has the SRY gene, that will provide instructions for the gonads to turn into testes. The testes are going to start to secrete testosterone and other hormones. In the absence of SRY, so if you don't have any Y chromosomes, the gonads will become ovaries. And the ovaries will then secrete hormones that are going to control female development. So as previously mentioned, if the SRY gene is present, the gonads are going to become testes, and the testes are going to secrete hormones that will cause the development of both male internal structures and male external structures. The testes are eventually then going to descend into the scrotum, and this usually happens before birth. If the SRY gene is absent, the gonads will become ovaries. The ovaries are going to release hormones that are going to cause the development of female internal and external genitalia. The ovaries and the internal genitalia are not going to be fully functional unless there are 2 copies of the DSS gene from the X chromosome. So you need 2 X chromosomes for functional female development in order to be a fertile female. But you can sort of have structures that will develop that will be mostly typical if you even have just 1 X chromosome and no Y chromosomes. So, to summarize, sex refers to the composition of your body, whereas gender refers to your personal sense of whether you're male, female, or something else. Both sex and gender have an underlying biological basis.
Free created using Powtoon.